Welcome back. David Hertel in for Elias. Well, on Monday, Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, met with Quebec Premier Francois Legault to discuss immigration. As always, the Prime Minister announced $750 million to reimburse Quebec's expenses caused mainly by asylum seekers coming in through Quebec and some of them staying in Quebec, which is federal responsibility. But beyond that, the Premier Legault, has made some pretty shocking statements about foreign temporary workers, saying, for example, that they are responsible for the housing crisis in Quebec. And also, last week, he went on French radio and said that asylum seekers there's a direct line, and that's the quote, a direct line between homelessness and asylum seekers. So a lot of facts to check here. And when I need to really get down to business about everything immigration, I turn to Jack Jedwab. He's the president of the Association for Canadian Studies. Jack, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay, David. How are you?
I'm okay. A long time no speak. Good to talk to you again.
100%.
So tell me, when first of all, when Francois Legault starts talking about there are over 500,000 immigrants, temporary immigrants in Quebec, is that really accurate? Because I'm hearing, some of them leave Quebec, aren't staying in Quebec, and they're different categories. Let's start with that number. Is that a realistic number?
It's probably off somewhat, but there are a high number if you accumulate all those people who are classifying as temporary, right? The students, various categories of workers, seasonal laborers, etc. You probably get a reasonably high number, but to be fair, Mr. Legault has been a major contributor to the increase in that number. I mean, that's why when I saw his statement about 100% responsibility of the temporary workers and immigrants broadly for the housing crisis, he's been one of the biggest contributors. In fact, in the provincial elections, in which he reached out to his core constituency to reassure them that in order to protect the French language, he was going to lower the number of permanent residents. He sort of did that with one hand, and with the other hand, since industry was very desiring of getting more workers, he basically said, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to fill that gap through the temporary stream," right? Which includes a lot of construction workers, by the way, who are going to be contributing to constructing those housing units that he is blaming those very same people for being at the root of the problem.
Because the majority, out of those 500,000 plus he's talking about, there's maybe a few, 10, 20, 30, maybe 40, 50,000 max that are asylum seekers that actually leave Quebec and go elsewhere in Canada. That's fair?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the rest, let's just say 470.
And then there's some return, some are going to return home.
Of course. Okay. So, but the rest, is it fair also, is it accurate to say that the majority of the remaining foreign temporary immigrants that are in Quebec right now are actually working? They are workers.
No, definitely they are.
Okay. So it's a big number. It's over 50%.
Yeah. Because, again, we have to remember that, remember the old adage that migrants contribute to unemployment.
Right.
Our unemployment rates have been reasonably stable, actually. So clearly the correlation between higher numbers of migrants, whether it's permanent or not, contributes to greater unemployment is something that the detractors of immigration are significantly unable to prove. Right? The correlation doesn't seem to be there, and industry keeps saying we're shorter workers.
And so, because I just read actually this morning on Québécois media, in TVA, Journal de Montréal, actually there are major economic lobby groups in Quebec. The Federation of Independent Business saying, amongst them, there are others, they're saying we actually need these temporary foreign workers to make our economy going. So I I don't understand here what Francois Legault is trying to do. And that's another reason why I wanted you on the show, is that I know you poll, weekly, monthly on many issues, including Quebecers and Canadians' perceptions on immigration. We saw with the European elections this weekend that the far right that is very much anti-immigration is gaining. I'm trying to draw a line here, and maybe I'm trying to do too much, but at the same time, I'm feeling that these foreign temporary workers who don't vote, obviously, are taking the brunt for something that actually is not factually accurate. I mean, especially when we hear that, as you're saying, these are mainly economic immigrants that are actually working.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mr. Legault is looking for, and I guess I'll call these things trial balloons to some extent, in the current political climate where his polling numbers aren't very good. And he probably is looking at what's going on in Europe right now, where a lot of the sort of change in the, if you like, orientation of who people are electing, the move to the right, is fueled to some extent by anti-immigrant sentiment. So maybe he's trying to build on that. And look, it did work for him in the provincial elections, where he sort of offered people what he, I guess, in his own estimation, if you were to look at this thing seriously, his 5,000 to 10,000 reduction of permanent residents was a drop in the proverbial bucket compared to the number of temporary workers. But it worked for him. So there's, I'm sure, a gap between what he's saying and what actually is happening out there on the ground, and what industry is speaking with him about, and what he's telling industry behind whatever closed door, because there's definitely a gap between this type of messaging and what's really happening out there from a policy standpoint.
Now, moving on to asylum seekers. Last week, I was shocked. I was personally shocked, and I wasn't the only one when he went on French radio and he said that there's a direct line to be drawn between asylum seekers and the rise in homelessness in places like Montreal. Now, is there anything in your research that bears this out?
No, nothing. I mean, when I saw that, I was scratching my head so hard it hurt me. So
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, these type of amalgam, as they say. And I liked the Rimel Curry. For those of you who read La Presse, she called it 100% irresponsible, right? When he described it as 100% responsible, right, for the housing crisis. And we've done a lot of polling on migration and housing issues, and actually most Canadians think, even though the two are connected, the affordability and availability issue, most Canadians actually think affordability is the issue, because we've seen significant increases in the cost of housing and the cost of rental units. Is he blaming that as well on asylum seekers? It's a very hard connection to make and to validate. I mean, we'd have to ask. We should ask you should get some real estate people and ask them if that's.
I do. Yeah. I get real estate people on the show, and they confirm. Yeah. I have a couple of minutes left, Jack. I also want to get your take on the overall situation, because we've closed Roxham Road, yet asylum seekers have increased in Canada, and we're on our way to another record year in 2024. It has reestablished sort of a balance, because now what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, but over 50% now of asylum seekers are in Ontario against 37% in Quebec.
Correct.
Before, when I was minister, it was 90% Quebec, 10% the rest of Canada. So there's definitely a rebalancing of the situation, but the numbers are increasing. And so I know you research this not only in Canada, but you talk to experts in the U.S. and Mexico. I mean, what is it that we need to do collectively? And I know I am asking you to solve this in a minute or less, so this is a simple one for you. But at the same time, I mean, asylum seekers are just going to increase. That's a simple fact, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a simple fact. There's a lot of global conflict out there right now, and the nature of that global conflict will contribute to increased desire for asylum. And there's also some economic challenges that also will contribute, even though we don't describe that as an asylum sort of direct, sort of request for asylum isn't directly connected to the economic dislocation. But all this will work together to create more asylum seekers.
So why isn't?
And there is pushback in public opinion, to be fair. In the polling we've done, we've seen some significant jumps in the extent to which Canadians think that there are too many immigrants in terms of the percentage response. Actually, fewer Quebecers say that, which is paradoxical, than the rest of Canada, based on what Mr. Legault is trying to exploit. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry. No, because I was getting. I know. No, it's me. I interrupted you. Look, why aren't the Faz doing more? Since we know, and we've known for years now, that we're going to get more asylum seekers, and this is opening a door to some right-wing messaging that Francois Legault is trying to exploit, as well as others. Why aren't the Fez doing more?
Well, I think they are taking a more serious look at things right now in terms of their own messaging and in terms of their own planning. I think they sort of got caught by surprise by the speed at which public opinion shifted, sort of within the 12 months after the sort of final not end of the pandemic, but if you like, that sort of or diminishing of the pandemic, if you like. This thing caught them off guard, and I think we're hearing different messaging. We've seen a change to the minister. It's Mark Miller now, and Mark Miller's making some of those adjustments. You could see, I don't know if it's working, because I think it's creating a bit of confusion, in terms of different categories of the immigration system. But we need more immigration literacy in the country, which is really a major challenge. And without that immigration literacy, it'll enable Mr. Legault to make statements that that people won't be able to validate.
All right. Well, Jack, appreciate your time this morning, and I'm going to call on you, I feel, many, many times to fact check, as you said, all these crazy statements that are being made right now.
Anytime, David. It's my pleasure, always.
Thank you so much. Jack Jedwab, president of the Association for Canadian Studies.